the body doesn't do anything useless, so it's a very energy conserving system. Like exercise, you have to exercise your immune system, but just like with exercise, you can over exercise and then you get into problems. Boosting the immune system is not necessarily going to be a good thing. If it doesn't need the immune system actively at an alert state and deal with intruders, it's not going to, prioritize those resources there. So it's going to lose it. Yeah, exactly.
Body mind empowerment.
Get stronger, faster, smarter, quicker, friendlier, more helpful, more driven.
Everything the body needs.
Control your mind.
So yeah, we're driving here in Finland, sunny Finland, with Teemu Arina. And we're gonna talk about boosting the immune system. So before we do that, maybe Teemu can give like a brief synopsis of like what are you doing and what's your, let's say, vocation in terms of biohacking your health.
Yeah, so I'm writing the Biohacker's Handbook, and it's a book that dives deep into optimizing your biology with systems thinking, looking at how the human body works, and then we are going into all the different systemic interventions, that being exercise or optimizing your sleep, or it might be about optimizing your diet and working with your gut bacteria and all that, and also like ergonomics and biomechanics and all these things like that help you to be a more balanced human being. So, and we also organize the Biohacker Summit, so I'm the curator for this Biohacker Summit conference series.
Yeah, and definitely like a lot of, I think like the Biohacker Summit is doing a huge, like very good job at not looking at one thing specifically, or not being so myopic about the human system and the human organism, and they're taking into account all the other aspects. And the immune system is probably one of the most important ones. So maybe like, can you describe briefly like what is the immune system and why is it so important for people to want to maintain its health?
Yeah, so we wrote a little ebook. It's called the Invincible Immunity. It's a Biohacker's Handbook, special kind of bonus chapter you can find from biohackingbook.com. But basically, in that book we describe like the functions of the immune system and things that are weakening the immune system and things that you can use to strengthen the immune system. And if you think of the immune system, you can split it into two. So I'm going to simplify greatly. Like I'm not going to get into all the different T cells or macrophages or things like that. To keep it simple, so you have immune system function that you are born with, and then you have immune system function that you are learning by being exposed to bacteria and other things that are causing disease. And the innate immune system that you are born with, it can react to external pathogens and so on very quickly, like within a day. And also the part of the immune system that you are learning through your exposure to different pathogens. Once you contract something like a virus, it takes a couple of weeks that your system learns how to kill that intruder, and next time when it faces the same intruder, it can activate itself within a day or two. It's very quick, so you might feel a little bit of like flu symptoms and then they go away because your immune system is already kind of aware how to deal with it.
So it kind of builds up like tolerance to it.
Yeah.
After initial exposure.
Yeah. And the problem obviously with something like flu is that they keep on mutating, so your immune system doesn't recognize the new mutation anymore. So you have to build
smart bacteria.
Yeah, you have to build immunity to new things like on a constant basis. But anyway, so in health circles there's a lot of discussion about that, or they're offering a lot of different supplements and so on that they promote that they will be immune system boosting, that they boost your immune system, that somehow like boosting the immune system is a good thing. But if you think about it, it's more about the balance, because if you take things like autoimmune disease, that's a good example where your immune system is working on overdrive and it's attacking your own tissues and organs.
Healthy cells, yeah.
Healthy cells. And the same goes for several viruses. They can actually boost your immune system in a way that it causes the symptoms. A good example is Ebola.
Yeah.
And what Ebola is doing, it's boosting your immune system in a way that you eventually kill yourself.
Yeah.
So people who have things like autoimmune disease and are already kind of their immune systems or allergies are running on overdrive on certain aspects, boosting the immune system is not necessarily going to be a good thing.
Right.
But if it's not functioning on an optimal state, you might have T cells that are not waking up when there's intruders.
So
then like boosting the immune system makes sense.
Okay, so T cells are like the healthy, these cells that are going to fight the pathogens and intruders, or
Yeah, but the T cells, for them to wake up and actually do their work, it requires vitamin D, for example, a circulating vitamin D. So they have a vitamin D receptor, and if you don't have high enough vitamin D, circulating vitamin D, then the T cells will stay asleep. So they're not going to do their work. So obviously there is many things like taking vitamin D is not necessarily boosting your immune system. It's just bringing the levels to where they should be so that the immune system response can work at an optimal state. And if your body has like low levels of white cells that help you to fight off pathogens as well, doing things like sauna or eating some medicinal mushrooms, that polypore mushrooms that are boosting your immune system, so they might produce a little bit more macrophages or white cells. So when a real pathogen comes around, your immune system is trained and ready also to deal with it. So it's like exercise. You have to exercise your immune system, but just like with exercise, you can over-exercise and then you get into problems. In a similar fashion, the immune system needs to be in a balanced state. So I think it's good to be constantly thinking about like how you can like maintain proper balance. So obviously exercise and diet and all that is the backbone, but then like if you have any kind of genetic issues or an overactive immune system because of exposure to mold, toxins or anything else that's boosting your immune system, or viruses.
what would be like the biggest, let's say, weakeners or things that are weakening people's immune system in our environment, and what's the most common issues?
Well, I think one of the biggest weakener for our immune system is that we are not exposed to bacteria enough. We are not exposed to parasites enough.
Yeah.
So the body doesn't do anything useless. So it's a very energy conserving system. So if it doesn't need the immune system like to be actively at an alert state and deal with intruders, it's not gonna prioritize those resources there. So it's gonna
lose it,
exactly. So I think it's important to work with nature, with your hands, get dirty occasionally, just from your immune system perspective. So being like Michael Jackson in a oxygen tank and having gloves and always washing your hands is not gonna boost your immune system.
Yeah, that's so common that the society and culture is, it's stigmatizing nature or being afraid of getting dirty almost, and it's looked upon as something dangerous. And there's a lot of people use chemicals in their kitchen. They're using a lot of soap chemicals on their body, and all those things are destroying the bacteria on your skin and in the gut, and antibiotics and all those things.
And then suddenly one day you contact a resistant bacteria, and it can quickly cause a serious infection because you are not ready for it. I mean, that's the problem here. So to be in balance is also to be exposed to these things to a certain degree. That's the natural way, and then also like have a proper diet that can balance that out. And also like part of the immune system is your gut bacteria. So having a healthy microbiome helps you already to fight off potential infections before.
What's the role with the microbiome and your immune system? How does it affect?
I mean, they are also like fighting for their, space, and a healthy, diverse gut bacteria. I mean, there's different theories on this, but the diversity of gut bacteria is linked to better health and immunity, and so having more different species is also a more balanced thing. So if you have an overgrowth of a certain species, that can compromise your immune system also. I mean, it can cause on its own issues, but also like having a low number of gut bacteria and using antibiotics and all that is going to expose you to risks when it comes to especially foodborne bacteria to take hold that you don't necessarily want in your system, because if you eat something, your gut bacteria can also respond to the intruders and take care of them. So I think there is a lot of misconception. Also when it comes to probiotics, I just had a discussion with a microbiome researcher, and I mean, we have these things in probiotics that we think they are good. Even like the most studied species, we don't necessarily completely understand what they work. So the quantity also kind of affects the outcome. So some type of a good bacteria might actually go bad if there's too much of it.
So more is always better.
Yeah.
And taking probiotics and prebiotics can actually start feeding the wrong type of bacteria if there is like a dysbiosis or some sort of infection.
Yes, yeah.
That's true.
Prebiotics, you meant?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that if you see like marketing which is saying that, hey, this thing is going to boost your immune system, or it's some kind of immune system tonic, it's good to kind of understand it's not about boosting, it's about balancing. Yeah. So you need those things when your immune system is low. You're in an environment that is not supporting like exposure to. I mean, if you, for example, work in a hospital, you probably get exposed to a lot of bacteria. Or if you work in security at X-ray, where a lot of passengers are passing by, you are exposed to a lot of bacteria on a daily basis. So immune system is definitely gonna be pretty armed up just from that. Or if you work in a school, but if you work in your computer in isolation, never meet anyone, and you're not even going outside, then boosting your immune system or strengthening your immune system with things can be of great help, like on a daily basis.
Nice.
So that's what I think about.
So what would be like some good immune system boosters?
Yeah, I mean, if you take like things like ginger and turmeric, they are actually toxic to
the body,
to different insects and bacteria. So many things that have antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal properties, they are good protective mechanisms for the plant to ward off intruders. So if you look at many of the strong spices also that we are eating, like rosemary or thyme, you never see the leaves being eaten by anything. They're completely untouched. So there's all these volatile oils and other things that are part of the immune system of the plant, and they're actually toxic in large quantities. They're small enough for the insects to be a toxin, but for humans they're also toxic, like rosmarinic acid, for example. You don't want to have too much of that stuff. But in small quantities, it's going to boost or strengthen your immune system. So the same for turmeric and ginger. The compounds there are kind of they cause a hormetic stress response. Hormetic stress response is something that is kind of strengthening your ability to deal with stress, and here it's like a stress from the environment, and that will make your immune system to respond and increase certain defense mechanisms, aspects of it, depending on what you're having. So if you take like something like medicinal mushrooms, like chaga, reishi, shiitake, you often have things called beta-glucans, and beta-glucans, they stimulate the immune system to produce more intruder-eating macrophages, for example. So that's an example of a response that they are making, and in that way they are strengthening your immune system.
Right. That's so true that although there are some different types of even like plants and polyphenols and sulforaphane from broccoli and those things, they are causing like small hormetic mild stress to your gut and your body, which has like a beneficial effect in the future.
Yeah, there is. I think it was Paracelsus who said that the dose makes the poison.
Yeah, exactly. That's the truth.
So
how much is too much then?
Yeah. So with many of these things, it's about the balance. So like you can overdo immune system boosting things also. Like if you do them on a constant basis every day, and you think that you're gonna be able to fight off disease, you can cause yourself autoimmune disease, for example, or something like this as a response to overdoing immune system stimulating substances.
So like if it.
So I think the tonic use is more important, and cycling things in and out, not doing everyday immune system boosting things.
Yeah.
And I mean that applies to many things, not just like turmeric and ginger and the compounds in there that are like strengthening the immune system, but also antioxidants and so on.
Yeah, exactly.
So sometimes you need the stress response, like with exercise, for example, to be able to grow.
Yeah.
But I think it's good to be occasionally also exposed to viruses. It's good to maybe get a flu occasionally. It will strengthen your system over time. So being healthy is also to be able to fight off these suckers.
Yeah, that's true. And like you said, if you actually consume too much of it, then you jeopardize the immune system. Then, and that's where people kind of start to think that certain foods are causing them a lot of issues, when in reality they simply overdid it in a sense. Like specifically.
Yeah, I've had an experience of having too much turmeric, for example. It's like it's way. I think it has some antibiotic qualities also to the gut bacteria, so I wouldn't be surprised if it imbalances some things if you just overdo these things. So yeah, and there is also some preliminary evidence that things like parasites are not necessarily also bad for you. It's the same thing as with bacteria. Small amounts exposure is actually part of a healthy ecosystem and balance. And obviously, if your immune system gets weak and a parasite can then replicate and can really like prosper in your system, then that can lead to serious conditions. But
there's like
it can be defensive also. I mean, there's obviously opportunistic pathogens that are really malicious that you don't want to have any exposure to. Same for bacteria. But there is also some things. It's once again dose makes the poison.
Yeah. So but
makes the medicine.
But the bacteria we're talking about are things like you can find in nature and soil and the forest and such. Not like the city bacteria on the streets.
Yeah. If you take things like antibiotic resistant bacteria, that's something like that even for very healthy and very balanced individuals, if they get a hold of you some way, they are really nasty to deal with. So because there is no antibiotic that will work on them, they've been trained by us to be badass motherfuckers that can take over you. So I think a balanced, healthy soil, food and agriculture approaches and systems is key to also helping downstream or upstream, depending on how you look at it. Also the health of human beings, that you're not breeding like super bugs.
Yeah.
So no immune system boosting drug might be able to deal with some of the super bacteria that we might be creating in the future with the approach
agriculture and
with agricultural practices that are using pesticides to kill off everything, and using antibiotics.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy to think about it, that the reason why a lot of people have autoimmune diseases is that we created these superbugs surrounding it.
First in our food, and then they jumped on us.
Yeah.
But it's like the same could happen on an individual if you just keep on feeding all kinds of antifungal, antibacterial, anti-whatever, parasite, anti-everything.
Yeah.
And
so it's not a good idea to have your super smoothie all the time.
Yeah, you might be getting, you might be developing, these things are mutating, they're adapting. So it's all about equilibrium, it's all about the balance of things. Like, that's where we want to be.
So the same would be like you want to cycle your diet as well, in a sense, to develop like different strands of bacteria every once in a while.
Yes, you develop different strands of bacteria, but you're also we don't know yet like fully
what's good or bad.
What's good or bad, and we don't fully understand all the biochemistry of things. Even a cup of coffee has, like, if I remember correctly, 400 different compounds.
Wow.
And we know about caffeine, we know about, to a certain extent, some things like caffeolin in there, but like caffeine is not coffee, and what coffee has in terms of health effects, we haven't yet fully understood, like, the complex biochemistry and how it kind of cascades down the different metabolic pathways and what the effects they have. So when you're looking at the package and you look at how much you have certain vitamins and certain minerals, or what the macronutrient profile is, you don't show there like how many anthocyanins there are, how many whatever, bacteria living on it. So there is so many compounds that we don't know yet anything about. So also, like, basically cycling in and out different food items. I think seasonal eating is a good way to start with that, and not overdo anything. Even with things like coffee, I'm drinking matcha tea now, because not just from the tolerance perspective, as you can imagine, like I believe there is more into it, like what you repeat. So it's good to kind of open up the doors for new things to come in by changing your patterns of behavior occasionally.
Yeah, for sure. But what about like other activities not related to the food specifically that can boost the immune system? Like you mentioned exercise, but things like saunas and cold.
Yeah, I mean that's a sauna and cold is an example of a hormetic stress response. So it's actually putting a shock into your body, and it starts to produce, for example, immune system cells. If you go to sauna once a week, you reduce your risk of getting seasonal flu by 60%. This number I remember from somewhere.
Wow.
So what you're producing is more white cells, for example, and you're also activating certain genes like FOXO3 that are related to longevity. So there might be some epigenetic change to make you more resilient if you expose yourself to such difficult situations occasionally. So exercise and heat alteration is obviously one, and then there is alteration of food and your exposure to bacteria. So I think like 50% of your food should be like living organisms, not like always eating cooked food. And I do that when I travel, like I was recently in Indonesia, and there is always, like, for travelers, there is all these warnings that you should only eat cooked food and you shouldn't touch any salads or whatever. I don't care. I mean, I'm eating diverse things. You might get a diarrhea, but then you adapt. I noticed that when I went to Indonesia the first time, that's when I got some like gut issues, but now the second, third time, no problems whatsoever. I function just fine. So it's good sometimes that you train your system. But even like visiting something like India once will permanently alter your gut bacteria for good. So you're not going to be the same person again. Like
Really?
when you travel. Yeah. It's crazy.
You're gonna pick up the bacteria from that.
Yeah, it's very hard to get rid of them, like over time even. That's the thing.
Yeah. So where can people learn more about the biohacking book about immunity?
So if you wanna check out the biohackers special chapter on immunity, you can go to biohackingbook.com, and you can, if you wanna learn more, you can also subscribe to our the full book, the Biohackers Handbook, that also have the chapters on sleep, exercise, nutrition, mind, and work. So check it out.
Awesome. Well, yeah, we're gonna keep on boosting our immune system with the hormetic stressor of sunlight that is coming into our eyes. So that's good. Yeah, I'll see you around.
It's always less of symptoms. So that's interesting also, like how the environment makes you more resilient later in life.
Yeah, like you have to. The most critical period is the early childhood when your microbiome is so, predisposed or ready to get.
It's as if it primes like the system for certain function.
Yeah, that's true.
Which has like almost like a permanent effect.
That's true.
It's interesting also for humans how important those early years are. Even for things like language learning and so on, like later in life it's so much harder to pick up nuances of things. Same with this bacteria stuff.
That's it for this episode of the Body, Mind, Empowerment podcast. If you want to support us, then I would greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on the iTunes or the other social media platforms. Definitely check out the show notes for the topics that we discussed in this episode. Thanks for listening. My name is Teemu. Stay tuned for the next episode. Stay empowered.